1986, I was trying to start a home improvement company, and I was doing a kitchen, and I was subcontracting for someone. And the client's brother had come in, and the project had been measured, and we started talking, and he says, we're looking for someone like you at our company, Patterson Dental. And I was about to have a child, and so working for myself seemed a little scary, so I went and I was hired in 1986 in Philadelphia by Patterson Dental. I did 5 years as a service technician, and then they opened the New England branch, which I'd fallen in love with New England, so I transferred up. And after a year of doing that in the New Hampshire area, there was an opening for a sales rep. And I just hounded my manager at the time to give me the opportunity. And I hounded him, and I hounded him, and I hounded him. And finally, I got the nod, I got the job. And then the next 2 or 3 years I spent thinking, my God, what the heck did I do? It was difficult, and mostly because I was listening to how other people told me you were supposed to sell. And at one point I thought to myself, I didn't get into this to do it this way. I got into this to help people and figure things out. And when I started to take that approach, everything just started to explode. It built the trust. Clients gained from it. They were thankful for it, and word got around. And then ultimately, I became the #1 rep in Patterson. And then after about 16 years of that, I really loved that leadership piece, bringing people to where they need to be but can't get there. I took a role as a branch manager, which was difficult. Working for a corporation, there's different desires, different goals from the top and the client, right? And you're just kind of stuck in the middle. So after 9 years of that, I thought, okay, it's time to do something else. I was thinking about brokerage. I was fortunate enough to have a job with TD Bank as a healthcare specialist, where I kind of learned the ins and outs of this. And I thought if I loved it, I would stay. But I really wanted to be in business for myself. So November 2017, I officially bought DDSmatch New England, and it's been 8 years, and it's awesome. Being an owner would allow me to have the freedom to lead the way I thought I should lead, right? Without the restrictions of whatever someone above me says you can and can't do. And sometimes you see a better way, or at least sometimes you think you see a better way. But when you work from your heart, it's usually the better way. So what this has allowed me to do is to have my own business, be an entrepreneur, but at the same time, approach people and help people the way I love to. As a for instance, I work with a lot of buyers. Although I don't represent buyers, I'm very clear that I don't represent them, but they trust me pretty quickly because I'm open with them. I'm vulnerable with them, and I never forsake that or risk that trust. But it's awesome when someone's looking at you and they know you're on the other side, and they're like, what do you think I should do? I said, well, I can't tell you what to do because this is not my job. But here's what I would be thinking if I were you, and please go get it verified by someone. This lady who now has a neurological disorder. She can't touch a handpiece, and she needs to sell the practice. And we sat and we chatted a little bit, and her brother, the attorney, went to get the contracts done, and we dealt that. I had one person in mind, and I brought her in, and they were almost crying. They were like a younger version of her, and what the younger version was looking for, and now is actually stepping in to start to do the dentistry even before she buys it. They're so happy that this all just came together. Those are the really satisfying pieces of what I do. When I talk to people, I'm confident in what I know, but I also am vulnerable to here's where there's risk for you and I. Here's where we may be disappointed. Here's where it might happen. And here's why. Many doctors, I have very successful doctors that are fee-for-service, doing very well. And part of the conversation there is, so when you were the age of a typical buyer, you could not do what you do now. It's going to be very hard to find someone who's going to step in those shoes. Therefore, you either have to help mentor them or take a lower price, or something's going to change because that doesn't exist. It takes 30 years to make one of you. And so maybe we'll find somebody who has 30 years experience and wants it. So having honest, direct conversations and explaining why things are the way they are, and vulnerability, not being boastful, just being caring and human, and people appreciate it. And I have to say, it's not a strategy, it's just who I am, right? So, but it works. It's a declaration of clarity. I look at it. It's a constitution of clarity. And some of it is, obvious. But what it does is it helps the client start to think about what the processes are, what piece goes before the other. I get many that are, so far down the line, and they really should be at step one. They really don't have an idea. They spoke to some friends. Oh, it's worth this, and I could do that, and what you find, if you don't follow that process, you end up stumbling at some point, and you have to go back and start over, right? Or it stalls things, or things fall apart. So it's kind of like it's adding recipes to a meal at the appropriate time, and it helps educate, I think, the client, and it helps us stay on track, so we don't. Because if you do this a lot, you can just jump ahead, right? Because that's its old hat. So it kind of keeps us kind of also grounded to remember, hey, we have to do this, although we know the client has to see this happen so they understand, the process. There's a lot of intricacy and a lot of tribal knowledge in dentistry, and to learn all that takes a long time. So that was my skill set. For me to go into doing something else, garages or veterinary, I know how the business runs, but I don't know the tribal knowledge of the business. This is my home. This is the space I live in. So I think it makes me uniquely qualified to do what I do, and I enjoy it. It's awesome.